atop the helmet visor then for Caden Andres. And then we find the number 9 car of Gian Daruvala, the Carlin driver, who took a podium for P3 in race 1 yesterday, equaling his best finish so far this season. He took a P3 in the opening round at the street circuit at Pau, so street circuits presumably to the liking of Gian Daruvala. Ferdinand Habsburg in car number 62, who really, to be honest, needs to get his season together. He's not shown the performance that we know, or the talent that we know that Ferdinand Habsburg has. There's some bad luck on the way, that's for sure, but his best position so far has been P8 in the second of the races at the Hungaroring. Marino Sato now in car number 33, and he's going from P9 on the grid, the Moto Park racer, whose best finish was actually in race 1 yesterday. He took a P8. So we'll see what he can do from P9 on the grid. And rounding out the first 5 rows is Alex Paulo in car number 39 for the Hi-Tech GP team, who has been on the podium, took a P3 in Hungaroring, as I recall. So for Hi-Tech Bulferg GP, there is Alex Paulo, another supremely talented racer. So much talent in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship as we look at the car of Nikita Troitsky, the Carlin driver, who had a torrid time of it in the race yesterday. Actually ended up finishing P22 after having to pay a visit to the pit lane. So Nikita Troitsky going from P11 on the grid, and then torrid qualifying for Guan Yu Zhu, who goes from P12 on the grid for the driver of car number 1, the man that set the first race win of the season, taking that opening race at Pau for Guan Yu Zhu. Then we find Sasha Fenestraz, who goes from P13 on the grid. Now, he had a torrid time of it in race 1 here at the Norris Ring. Ended up being put into the wall and was unable to complete the race. So we'll be hoping to put that to rights in this race too. So, as I mentioned at the start of the program, the crowd's beginning to file into this phenomenal circuit, which basically you could be forgiven for thinking when you see the track map that is basically 2 straights, 2 hairpins and a chicane in the middle of it. It's certainly a bit more technical than that. There is Mick Schumacher then, driver of car number 4, going from P20 on the grid. 2.3 kilometers. There are 8 turns, 5 of them left, 3 of them are right-handers here at the Norris Ring circuit, as everyone leaves the grid now, and we're not far away from the formation lap getting underway for this, the second race of 3 across this weekend. And there is the man that's P2 on the grid, Inam Ahmed for Hi-Tech GP, who had a phenomenal time of it at the Hungaroring, taking a P7 and then 2 wins. Race 2 and race 3. And the serene sight of the lake, as we look at our pole sitter, Robert Schwartzman, going from P1 on the grid. As I mentioned, he's been on the podium for a P3. That's been his best result so far. And let's see if he can convert that P1 starting position into the race win. Marcus Armstrong then will be buoyed and full of confidence, having taken the win in race 1. So some great shots of the drivers and the cars then, as they await the signal to start the cars up from the battery pack that's at the back of the car. We saw Guan Yu Zhu, and there once again our pole sitter. So the engineers leave the circuit, and all eyes on the lighting gantry to release the cars on their formation lap, and supporters young and old to enjoy the FIA Formula 3 European Championship Race 2 here at the Norris Ring. So air temperature then, as you can see, just a shade under 19 degrees, about 3 degrees higher for the track temperature. And there the Ferdinand Habsburg car. And the cars released on their formation lap. With such a short lap, just 2.3 kilometres. Expect to see the cars fairly vigorously weaving from side to side to try and generate some temperature into the tyres. Some fairly vigorous weaving having gone on with the Marcon driver Julian Hanses yesterday, who actually was weaving so aggressively he actually lost the back end of the car, and the car did a complete 360. Luckily he managed to keep it out of the walls. A scary moment for Julian Hanses, who probably won't be weaving quite as aggressively in warming up today. There, the exit of the Scholler S is then, as the track surface changes from tarmac to the concrete paved area. The grid in full for you in graphics then: Robert Schwartzman, Inem Ahmed, Dennis Marcus Armstrong, Yuri Vips, Dan Ticktum, Kevin Suri Andres, then Jihan Daruvala, Ferdinand Habsburg, Marina Sato, Alex Paulo, then it's Troitsky, Zhu, Fenestraz, Shearer, Aberdine, Petrov, Fernandez, Aaron, Hingley, Schumacher, Vadyanathan, Hanses, and Petro Floresco for Fortec Motorsports at the back of the pack. So no sooner have you blinked than a lap is completed, and that was a lap completed at formation lap speed. There, confirmation of the track, then 2.3 kilometres, the race distance 33 minutes plus 1 lap. Some vigorous weaving going on from Inem Ahmed then. The race wins to his tally for the season, and we are about to go racing. We wait for the 23 cars to be perfectly situated in their grid boxes. And Mick Schumacher then in the number 4 car, also trying to generate some temperature into those tyres ahead of the start of race number 2. Robert Schwartzman is the one that has to wait the longest, of course, by dint of the fact he is going from pole position P1. So he awaits the rest of the rows to come into order. We await the green flag from the marshal at the rear. Inem Ahmed then, by virtue of the staggered grid, has the inside line. However, ahead of him is Robert Schwartzman, who will try and defend that inside line. We've got 5 red lights. The lights go out. Let's go racing. All the cars bar one get away, and the one that did not get away and has been really clattered into, I am convinced, is the Red Bull liveried car. So for sure that will mean that the race will be, I was going to say, brought under the safety car, but more than that, I'm convinced it's Hingley that got caught out there, who seemingly balked at the start and then got collected. And no, it's of course it's the car of Daniel Ticktum. And Daniel Ticktum thankfully is out of the car and he's perfectly okay. So Dan Ticktum then with huge damage on the car right on the start was just driven straight into, because seemingly he failed to get away at the start. And there you can see that also caught up in that was Vadyanathan, I am sure. So the doctor attending straight away to Dan Ticktum, but seems to be okay. Grazia Troncon from the Prema Theodore team then on the radio sent a picture, as you can see. There you can see just how the impact really did destroy the number 27 car of Daniel Ticktum. Of course, the cars have extraordinary safety integrity, and thank goodness for that. So the car we think that we saw at the runoff area, or sorry, just inside the turn at turn 1, is Robert Schwartzman, who was the pole sitter. So he's stranded somewhere on the track now, certainly not as a result of this collision, because he was right at the start of the pack, right at the front of the grid. So all the information that we have at the moment is, and we can see it for ourselves, that Daniel Ticktum is okay. And there is our pole-sitting driver, Robert Schwartzman, who's out of the race. Had taken that pole position. So the race has been red flagged. So that's the Schwartzman car about to be recovered. And quite a lot of debris spread all over the track, right on the start-finish straight following that collision right at the very start. So race suspended, clock stop. Well, it hasn't stopped at the moment, but it will stop and will be reset. So thankfully we can see all the drivers walking away relatively unaided, which is of course what we always want to see. And then there is the number 27 car, which Motor Park driver Daniel Ticktum, who, as you can see, is okay. The car, however, extremely damaged. Now, being told that the restart will be behind the safety car. We don't have a time for the restart of the race yet, as we can see the Robert Schwartzman car being collected and recovered now. Right, let's try and see exactly what happened here. So this the first replay we've had. So the first two cars avoid the stricken Daniel Ticktum, but then it's one of the cars from the very back of the grid that perhaps unsighted, although by dint of the fact all the other cars had moved. Goodness me. So, pretty sure from that replay it was Amaya Vadyanathan. Try and pick it up again from here. Colossal impact and destroying both of the cars, but Ticktum was just sitting there, and Vadyanathan, look what is well, the complete front of the car has been destroyed. So that's where Robert Schwartzman got squeezed out and made contact with the barriers, and then had to bring the car on the exit of turn 2 at Grundig. There, as you can see, just at the start of turn 3, that's where Schwartzman abandoned the car, and it would take no further part. Squeezed there by Inem Ahmed, and Schwartzman up against the barriers, causing damage to the car, and that meant that the Schwartzman car would be retired, unfortunately. So there we're getting the replays of the two completely separate incidents. And that's always good to see, the crowd applauding the drivers involved in that crash getting out of the cars, and Amaya Vadyanathan then out as well. And this is the Robert Schwartzman car, the pole sitter, who regrettably will not be continuing in the race. So the cars that we've lost then are Amaya Vadyanathan, Dan Ticktum and Robert Schwartzman. Just struggling to... the sight of Mick Schumacher there looking on. What I'm trying to square in my mind is Amaya Vadyanathan, who, you know, several cars had avoided the stricken Dan Ticktum car, but Vadyanathan just, well, didn't even look like he was turning when the, I mean, we are talking about split seconds, but you know, hundreds of seconds with which you've got to react, and sadly Amaya didn't react and therefore ran into the back of the Ticktum car. But both the drivers are okay, and Robert Schwartzman, in a completely separate incident, got squeezed out by Inem Ahmed, and that means that Schwartzman won't be taking any further part in this race. The information that we have is that all drivers are okay and have been attended to by the medical crews, just to make sure that they are perfectly okay, and we think that certainly is the case. So That's the best news of all, but we're going to be 3 cars down when the race does resume. No information yet on when it is going to be resumed. We are being told that 2 cars are under investigation for potential jump starts, and they are Sebastian Fernandez in the number 3 car, and also car number 12, Artem Petrov, the Van Amersfoort driver. So those cars under investigation for a potential jump start. And at the time of the stop, they were P17 and P12 respectively. So we're looking at the Ferdinand Habsburg car at the moment as the track team go to work on clearing up the debris and also the fluid that's been dumped onto the track. Always do a very, very good job here at the Norris Ring in terms of sorting everything out very, very quickly. And you can see the medical crews are down there to attend to Amaya Vaidyanathan and also to Daniel Ticktum straight away. So the number 39 car is Alex Paulo that we can see there, the high-tech GP driver. So not the start to the race that we would want. And with a very, very tight schedule of racing events here at the Norris Ring. This a delay which for the race organisers was probably not high on their list of priorities, that's for sure. As soon as we get any news in with regards to when the race is going to restart, we're convinced it's going to restart behind the safety car. So it will be in the order of how the cars sat when the race was stopped. So it'll be Ahmed, Armstrong and Juri Vips, the top 3 drivers. You can see the cars are all in the pit lane with the brollies up, protecting the drivers from the sunshine coming down. In any event, what will happen is that the race duration will be somewhat shortened. So, if you are just joining us, the race has been stopped by a red flag following Daniel Ticktum, who didn't get away on the start line and was then driven into flat out by Amaya Vaidyanathan. Thankfully, both the drivers are okay. Our pole sitter, Robert Schwartzman, he had a torrid time of it at the start as well. He, on the exit of turn 2, was squeezed out by Inem Ahmed, made contact with the Armco barriers and has had to retire the car. So 10 minutes before the start, the restart is going to be behind the safety car at 10:35. So 9 minutes before the race will resume. So here we can see, if you look back to the 3rd row of the grid, that's where Daniel Ticktum was. Several cars avoided him, but the one that didn't there was Amaya Vaidyanathan, who collected Dan Ticktum's car in a horrifying looking crash. But I repeat, both drivers, to the best of our knowledge, are perfectly okay. They've been attended to. And this is where I find it confusing that Amaya Vaidyanathan didn't see the fact that Ticktum wasn't moving. A number of cars had avoided, but sadly, Amaya Vaidyanathan wasn't one of those. Let's see it again from another angle here. And there you can see, and can't help but feel that not like he was absolutely behind another car and therefore was completely unsighted. But as I have said, you have to make decisions in literally milliseconds, and at that point, clearly he didn't dial out of that and didn't steer, and therefore you can see the huge damage to the number 24 car of Amaya Vaidyanathan. I just wonder whether he was looking left rather than looking ahead, because you know, we've seen situations like that where drivers have had the opportunity to make the turn and turn the steering wheel to avoid. That was where Robert Schwartzman got put into the, squeezed into the Armco, if you like, by Inem Ahmed, and that meant damage to the Schwartzman car. And here you can see again from another angle, Schwartzman on the wide outside here. Ahmed, and of course they're all on relatively cold tyres, so they're all scrabbling for grip, and unfortunately Schwartzman just getting squeezed into the concrete barriers, and that meant that he broke a component on the car, as you can see, and that would mean that he would take no further part from his pole position, which was a great shame for the SMP supported driver. Well, there we can see the stricken car being taken out. There's Robert Schwartzman exiting his car. And we're now just 6.5 minutes away from the race resuming from this red flag. So the clock has been stopped, which means that the race duration is going to be 23 minutes plus 1 lap when the race resumes. And repeat that the race will start behind the safety car. So the remaining race distance, a confirmation of that, 23 minutes plus 1 lap. Ferdinand Habsburg then almost looks in a pose of relaxation, doesn't he, in the car? But not very many moments before he'll be back racing again. Ferdinand Habsburg, who at the time of the stoppage was in P5. The restart confirmed then for 10:35. Inem Ahmed, the race leader. Marcus Armstrong, yesterday's race winner, going from P2. Juri Vips will be from P3, with Kevin Andres P4, then Ferdinand Habsburg, Alex Paulo, Marino Sato, Gian Daruvala, Nikita Troitsky, and Guan Yu Xu rounding out the top 10. The way it looks when the restart will get underway behind the safety car. Just to repeat the information that we have, and that is that both Vaidyanathan and Ticktum are okay from a medical point of view, which is the most important thing, of course. So, somewhat later than anticipated. The big crowd here at the Norris Ring. Norris Ring always attracts a huge audience. 5 minutes away from the restart behind the safety car. So not even a lap completed in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship before the race brought under red flag conditions, following that really horrible crash right at the very start. But as I say, thankfully, both drivers, we're being told, are okay. We will have lost 3 cars. Those being Amaya Vaidyanathan, Daniel Ticktum following that huge collision, and Robert Schwartzman following him being squeezed into the concrete and out of the race. Just a reminder, a couple of drivers that are under investigation for a jump start. Car number 3, which is the car driven by Sebastian Fernandez, under investigation for a potential jump start. And also under investigation for a potential jump start is car number 12, which is the car of Artem Petrov, the Van Amersfoort driver. There is our race leader, Inem Ahmed, who's had a couple of wins to his tally this season, and finds himself in a position where maybe able to add a third to that. So 23 minutes plus 1 lap. There's the number 1 car of Guan Yu Xu. Behind that is Fenestras in car number 11, and behind them is one of those cars that's under investigation for that potential jump start, Artem Petrov, then in the Van Amersfoort number 12 car. So the cars are all in the pit lane, as you can see, to allow the maintenance crew here at the Norris Ring to do their work in terms of cleaning the track following that collision between Ticktum and Vaidyanathan. And Bob looks on then from one of the FIA team here. And Marcus Armstrong then, who, as I said, he's buoyed with confidence, having done a good job in qualifying. He started from P3 on the grid. He now finds himself in P2, and of course took a win here at the Norris Ring in the first race yesterday. So he'll be fancying his chances against Inem Ahmed when the safety car pulls off and the cars are released back into race action proper. So we are going to get just one lap behind the safety car. Now, what that means is that they've only got one lap behind the safety car to try and get some temperature into the host tyres, and a lap around the Norris ring is not enough to bring the tyres up to temperature. So when they start racing proper, when the safety car comes in after one lap, there will be tyres that are potentially not up to temperature. Just getting information that there was potential overtakes under the red flag, which involved car number 1, Guan Yu Zhu, also the number 11 car of Sasha Fenestras, and also car number 16, which is the Nikita Troitsky car. So bear in mind that they are under investigation for potentially overtaking under the red flag. So this a replay of the start once again. And there you can see how Daniel Ticktum didn't get away, and Amaya Vaidyanathan just, again, as I look at it again, it becomes even more clear to me that there was time for him to be able to steer out of it. Many drivers had already done so, but Vaidyanathan just appeared to be looking left rather than straight, and therefore didn't see the fact that the Daniel Ticktum car not only had not got away, but had also been avoided by a number of other drivers before that horrible contact. But as I say, if you are just joining us and you've just seen that crash for the first time, we are told that the drivers are relatively okay. It was a huge impact right at the start. So we're about to get the safety car out of the pit lane. The cars will follow the safety car for one lap, and then we will be back to racing proper. There is Ralph Aron then in the number 7 car, who is down there in P15. His qualifying was not brilliant. And as the sun beats down now at the Norris ring, having an impact on our studios here, where the sun beating through the windows means that the light situation is makes viewing the screens, the multitude of screens that we have, not terribly easy. So the clock gets underway once again, because as soon as the safety car had left the pit lane, the clock restarts. So you can see that at the top of the screen. We're told we're going to have one lap behind the safety car, then the cars will be released. Bear in mind, therefore, that the car's tyres will not necessarily be up to temperature. You'll see them weaving and weaving and weaving the first part of the lap. But then Inem Ahmed will try and back them all up, because it will be the safety car restart, and Marcus Armstrong will be hoping to anticipate exactly when Inem Ahmed is going to give it a footful and get this race started proper, as it were, because we are under the race is on, but we are under the guises of the safety car, which means, of course, no overtaking. So, confusingly, we're told one lap with the safety car, but the lights are still on the safety car, as you can see. It's the indication to the teams, when the lights come out or go out of the top of the safety car, that's when the safety car is coming in. And with such a short lap here, we are going to get another lap behind the safety car, which is good news for the drivers. It basically means they've got another lap within which to weave from side to side and use everything they can to try and generate some temperature into those tyres and brakes. So this, we are told, will be the last lap behind the safety car, so just 2 behind the safety car. And what will happen is the first lap will have been done at a certain speed, and now the safety car will increase the speed somewhat to get the drivers up to speed, so to speak, for the restart of the race. You can see them heading into, now this is effectively turn number 2, and it was on the exit of this turn where Robert Schwartzman was squeezed into these concrete barriers that don't give at all, and which caused the damage to his car, which sees him out. He was the pole sitter. Heading into the Scholler S now, Scholler S in, which is the right-hander, which is where this particular camera is situated. This chicane, and there is the Mick Schumacher car. And that's the Scholler S out, the left-hander, where, funnily enough, the man that leads the race, Inem Ahmed, caught the back of his car yesterday. So he gives it a footful now, because the safety car has disappeared up the road. Marcus Armstrong seemingly anticipated when Inem Ahmed was going to go for it, and stuck right with him. Juri Vips is also fancying his opportunities as well, as we do get the race back underway properly now. Absolutely no overtaking until they've crossed the line, but It's Inem Ahmed that leads from Armstrong and Juri Vips, and Vips on the inside of Armstrong now as they head into turn number 2. The Grundig turn. Is Juri Vips going to be able to make this P2? I think he is, so a very good move from Juri Vips, and he goes through into that P2 position. So for the first time of asking under race conditions proper, they head into the Cholereses, the race being led by Inem Ahmed with Juri Vips in P2. Marcus Armstrong is P3. Then a real battle going on for P4, 5 and 6 at the moment, and Alex Paulo fancying his chances. So great racing from the FIA Formula 3 European Championship all the way around the outside, and Alex Paulo has to yield to the number 15 car of Suri Andres because just running out of room. So as they cross the timing line, it's Ahmed from Vips and Armstrong, and then it's Andres, and you can see, oh, big lock-up from Inem Ahmed. So as that played into the hands of Juri Vips then? No, Juri Vips was not quite close enough to be able to do anything there. They are queuing up behind the Suri Andres car, that's for sure. So a couple of drive-through penalties have been awarded already, and they are for Sebastian Fernandez and also for Artem Petrov. Those for earlier instance right at the start of the race. As it's all very frantic at the front of the pack now. All jostling for positions in the shortened race. Then Ahmed leading 3/10 over Juri Vips. Then it's Armstrong, Suri Andres, Habsburg, Paulo, Sato and Nikita Troitsky all in the mix there. And on the inside there, the number 15 car of Suri Andres, then you could just see that they are absolutely side by side. This for the race lead then between Inem Ahmed and Juri Vips. Into the Cholereses they go. So Inem Ahmed leading Juri Vips, but Vips really going for it here, and Ahmed really aggressively defending here as Juri Vips tries to find a way past the number 65 car. So Ahmed then, Vips will try and get underneath and get better exit now. And whilst this is all going on, Marcus Armstrong being left in their wake a little bit. Juri Vips then, he's got the pace, that's for sure. He's side by side with Inem Ahmed now. So they head up towards the Grundig turn, turn number 2. Surely Juri Vips has done enough. He has. Now, he turns into the Grundig turn and he relegates Inem Ahmed to P2. They go 3 abreast. One runs off wide. But all the excitement right at the front as Juri Vips leads the race then in car number 44. So Juri Vips then, he made his intentions pretty clear, and Inem Ahmed was really having to defend hard, and in the end fell prey to the number 44 car that leads the race now. So just under 17 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, and look at the pace that Juri Vips has, and all of a sudden now Inem Ahmed is coming under pressure from Marcus Armstrong, who's trying to come back, and then Kayvan Suri Andres and Ferdinand Habsburg having a battle for the P4 place as well. So much action going on in this Formula 3 race. Alex Paulo, Marina Sato, Gian Daravala, Nikita Troitsky and Fenestras then. Bear in mind that those are the points-paying positions, the top 10 places. So Juri Vips leading by, it was 8/10 last time around. As they cross the timing line now, you can see that he's increased it by another couple of tenths over Ahmed. Then it's Armstrong, Suri Andres, Habsburg, Paulo, Sato, Daruvala. And then it's Nikita Troitsky and Fenestras that are rounding out the top 10 at the moment. So Juri Vips with great pace, the Moto Park engineered car, delivering a perfect pace for Juri Vips then, who was able to get past Inem Ahmed and pick up the race lead. As I say, Marcus Armstrong is just getting closer to Inem Ahmed as well. That P2 might be under threat shortly. So the gap between Mick Schumacher and Guan Yu Zhu, as you can see, as Mick Schumacher tries to reel in Guan Yu Zhu. Both of those drivers are out of the points at the moment because they're running in P12 and P11. So as in just a blink, another lap is completed, with Vips putting another 10th on Inem Ahmed in terms of the margin between P1 and P2. Battle here going on between the teammates Guan Yu Zhu and Mick Schumacher, car 1 and car number 4, running in P11 and P12 at the moment. Fenestras is ahead of them, and of course they need to keep within touch of the all-yellow car ahead, the car that's in the final points paying position currently, and just ahead of that Fenestras car is Nikita Troitsky and Gian Daruvala. So the race being led pretty comfortably by Juri Vips, ahead of Inem Ahmed and Marcus Armstrong, who's within 7/10 of that P2 driver at the moment. Guan Yu Zhu has seen off the challenge from Mick Schumacher just for the moment, and now is beginning to take the chase to the number 11 car of Sasha Fenestras, the Carlin driver ahead of him in the all-yellow machine. There you can see that's the fight going on for the final points paying position, and Guan Yu Zhu then, member of the Ferrari Driver Academy, and there is Mick Schumacher, who is running in P12, and he's just eased off from the attack on Guan Yu Zhu just for the moment. There's the race leader. There is P2 and P3. And this was the overtake from Juri Vips, putting himself ahead of Inem Ahmed. Ahmed having to take to the runoff area. It's a little touch between the two of them, but now finds himself in the race lead. Incidentally, the start crash between cars number 24 and 27 will be investigated after the race. The incident that we saw between Robert Schwartzman and Inem Ahmed, which was at the real start of the race, which put the pole sitter out of the race, is also going to be investigated after the race. So Ahmed will be under investigation. So the cars scream past the temporary pit garages here at the Norris Ring, with 12.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, and all of a sudden now Mick Schumacher has refocused his attention on Guan Yu Zhu ahead of him. So there you can see the number 1 and the number 4 car. The number 1 car is driven by Guan Yu Zhu, number 4 by Mick Schumacher. A very, very similar pace. So Schumacher just dialing out of being right behind the Guan Yu Zhu car, trying to find just somewhere to perhaps just show his car into the mirrors of Guan Yu Zhu ahead of him. But Guan Yu Zhu more than well aware of the fact that he's got his Prema Theodore teammate right behind him. And whether Schumacher is quite close enough now to have a go, he takes a look at the outside. He doesn't want to leave himself vulnerable to the car that is right behind him of Fabio Scherer. And again, dials out of the slipstream of Guan Yu Zhu as they go into the Cholereses, run off the tarmac onto the concrete paved slab area. And he's under real pressure now, is Guan Yu Zhu, and he's having to defend very hard, and he had to dial out of that because Schumacher had got to the inside, so that means that Schumacher does go through on Guan Yu Zhu, and now Guan Yu Zhu is under pressure from Fabio Scherer, because Fabio Scherer was watching everything that Schumacher was doing and was going to try and take advantage of that as well. So Guan Yu Zhu is coming back at him here, and they go 3 abreast as Fabio Scherer goes to the outside. Then tucks back into the inside, but for the moment, despite the retaliatory attack from Guan Yu Zhu, Mick Schumacher stays ahead. And then going through is Fabio Scherer. So Guan Yu Zhu losing out to Fabio Scherer there through the Cholereses. And the more these two fight, the great news it is to Mick Schumacher, who can just escape up the road. So the order will have changed then, as Schumacher finds himself ahead of Guan Yu Zhu, and Fabio Scherer now finds himself ahead of Guan Yu Zhu as well. So it's Schumacher now in P11, Scherer is P12, Guan Yu Zhu relegated to P13, but he's trying to come back here. And what Schumacher wants to do now is, of course, try and get up the road and chase down Fenestraz, who is in the final points-paying position in P10. You can see now that he's been released from Guan Yu Zhu, he's able to escape up the road and try and get on terms with that number 11 car, which just went through on the camera there. There, the all-yellow machine, that's the one that Schumacher is chasing down now. But we've only got 9.5 minutes left in the race, plus 1 lap, so got a heck of a lot to do in a relatively short time. So Vips has extended his lead to some 1.4 seconds, and Fenestraz himself is looking at the Nikita Troitsky car here. That's the battle that we pick up now, and this is the battle that's going on for P9. Nikita Troitsky then is currently in P9, but being chased hard by the number 11 car of Sasha Fenestraz, then the Carlin racer, who has had a race win in the season so far. He took the win in the second race, I think I'm right in saying, in Po, and currently finds himself at P10, as you can see, and the margin between the two of them is just a couple of tenths. There is the number 9 car of Gian Daruvala, which is just ahead of these two, and there is Schumacher, who managed to get past that Guan Yu Zhu car. So once again, Nikita Troitsky ahead of Sasha Fenestraz, trying to make sure he defends his position robustly and denies any opportunity for Fenestraz to come past here. So through the Grundig turn they go, head up towards the Scholler S's now, and Fenestraz certainly not as close to Nikita Troitsky ahead of him as he has been previously. 8 minutes or so plus 1 lap of the race remaining. The race being led by Juri Vips very comfortably with some 1.6 seconds ahead of Inem Ahmed, who is P2, and Marcus Armstrong, who's about a second behind Inem Ahmed in P3. This is Mick Schumacher then. And that's where he was very decisive. You could see that Guan Yu Zhu was going to turn in, but then realised that the gap that he wanted to turn into was full of his teammate, Mick Schumacher. So it was a bold move from Mick Schumacher there. You can actually see Guan Yu Zhu on the steering wheel, about to steer into the make the apex of the turn, but was unable to do so because Schumacher had already dived down the inside. So good opportunistic move from Mick Schumacher, which is put him into P11. And he is, well, 1.8 seconds behind Sasha Fenestraz, who himself is fighting with Nikita Troitsky for P9. So Inem Ahmed then is running in P2. There you can see Juri Vips, who's escaped up the road. Inem Ahmed P2, Marcus Armstrong P3, Suri Andres is P4. Then it's Ferdinand Habsburg, Alex Paolo, Marino Sato, and Gian Daruvala rounding out the top 8 before we get to that battle between Troitsky and Fenestraz, which has calmed down a little bit now. You can see the all-yellow machine there going through the turn from the high camera angle that we were able to bring you. Schumacher has not broken away from Fabio Scherer, perhaps as much as I would have expected him to. It's only some 4 tenths between the two of them, so I just wonder whether Schumacher will come under some pressure from Fabio Scherer before the race is done. 6.5 minutes remaining. So there is Gian Daruvala, who can't really make any impression on the number 33 car of Marino Sato ahead of him. And behind them is the Nikita Troitsky and Fenestraz battle. Just joining the back of the Schumacher, Scherer, Zhu, Aron battle is Jonathan Aberdeen as well, car number 23. So Guan Yu Zhu with Ralph Aron, another 2 teammates back together again, running in P13 and P14. There is Gian Daruvala then, running in P8. What's interesting is that the top 3 drivers are all rookie drivers, effectively. Juri Vips and Inem Ahmed and Marcus Armstrong. Before we get to Kevin Andres Suarez, who is running in P4 ahead of the very tall Ferdinand Habsburg. So Vips crosses the timing line with another couple of tenths on Inem Ahmed now. He's got 2 seconds ahead and 1.1 second ahead of Armstrong is Inem Ahmed. So I did say, and we just caught that I did wonder whether Fabio Scherer would try and have a go. Oh, and he's run out very, very wide there by Ralph Aron. So the number 13 car, driven by Fabio Scherer. So there is the number 7 car of Ralph Aron. And in the meantime, we zoom into the Marcon driver. Julian Hanses, as Fenestraz was certainly getting much closer to Nikita Troitsky. We picked that up just momentarily. There's Gian Daruvala going through. It's then the battle that you can just see right at the back of the picture that we're interested in now, because in the closing stages of the race, Fenestraz just appears to have picked up the pace on Nikita Troitsky for that P9 position, which is being fought over at the moment. So another lap is put in the book where Juri Vips extends his lead. It's Ahmed, Armstrong, then it's Andres and Paulo, Habsburg, Sato, Daruvala, Troitsky, Fenestraz, Schumacher, Fabio Scherer, then Guan Yu Zhu and Ralph Aron, those two teammates together in P13 and 14. So you can see that, again, Nikita Troitsky has seen off the charge from Fenestraz for the P9 place at the moment. No moment, no time for these drivers to even almost take a breath of relaxation, because with just 2.3 kilometers, there is something going on this Norris Ring circuit all the time. They just do not have a moment to themselves. It's a really intense lap. As Fenestraz again tries just to reel in Nikita Troitsky, but Troitsky appears to have it all completely under control as they exit turn number 2, the Grundig turn. This is P9 and P10 at the moment. The final points paying places, Nikita Troitsky and Sasha Fenestraz then. And there you can see the margin between them. We've seen it lower than that. If you will recall, it was down to just under 3/10. It's just about 4/10 now between the two of them as they head into the Dutzendijk turn. And around that second of the hairpins here on this Norris Ring circuit, the street circuit, the German Monaco. Here, just on the outskirts of the fine city of Nuremberg, which is where this Formula 3 round is being raced. Always been a feature on the Formula 3 calendar, this street circuit here at Norris Ring. Of course, the season this year opened on the street circuit of Pau. So very much into the closing stages of the race, and this man has done a brilliant job. Juri Vips, it will be his first win this season if it all stays this way. He's got probably another 3 laps to complete before he can see the checkered flag, but with a margin of 2.1 seconds over Inem Ahmed. Then Marcus Armstrong, who's taken a win already this weekend, who is P3. Then it's Andres is P4, Alex Paulo P5, then Ferdinand Habsburg, Sato, Daruvala, Fenestraz and Nikita Troitsky. But is it going to stay that way? As Fenestraz now to the inside of Nikita Troitsky. He's been trying and trying and trying. And you can see how, as those two have fought together, so that has brought Mick Schumacher into this as well. So Mick Schumacher currently running in P11 behind Nikita Troitsky. So he's 1 place away from a points finish. So Nikita Troitsky will be very much in Schumacher's target sights. You can see how Fenestraz has got up the road now, and Schumacher through on the inside, a relatively easy overtake. And that does put Mick Schumacher into P10. So, a point for Schumacher. And Troitsky could be under pressure now from Fabio Scherer. So we have the remainder of this lap plus one more. So Fabio Scherer right on the gearbox of Mick Schumacher goes through as well. So whether Nikita Troitsky has now got a fault with that car, Gian Daruvala has got Marino Sato right on his gearbox. So Gian Daruvala in the all-pink machine is having to defend very hard. So there you can see Marino Sato dives to the outside, not close enough to be able to try and get the underneath the number 9 car of Gian Daruvala. So as we start the final lap now, Juri Vips with 2 seconds worth of comfort over Inem Ahmed, then Marcus Armstrong, then it's Kevin Andres. So after lap of trying to get past, Fenestras as we zoom in on the race leader, about to seal his first victory in the season. Juri Vips then, the Estonian racer, heads towards the checkered flag, weaves from side to side, takes the win from Inem Ahmed P2. Then it'll be Armstrong P3, Suri Andres P4, Alex Paulo, Ferdinand Habsburg. Then Daruvala, Marino Sato takes P8. Then it's Fenestras, Schumacher, Scherer, Troitsky, Zhu, Aron, Aberdeen. A great race with lots going on. Of course, started very, very badly, but what a win for the Motopark driver, Juri Vips. Great to see him take that win. He will be absolutely delighted with that. So let's get confirmation of the result then. It is Juri Vips taking the win from Inem Ahmed, then Marcus Armstrong, Keivan Suri Andres, and the rest of the order you can see on screen. So eventually, when we did get racing, it was a brilliant race from the FIA Formula 3 European Championship with plenty going on. Marcus Armstrong, of course, going to be back on the podium again. Sadly, not on the top step for him, but he has taken a P3. We lost Meyer Vadjanathan, Daniel Ticktum and Robert Schwartzman right at the start of the race. That huge collision between Vadjanathan and Ticktum, and then Robert Schwartzman, of course, in a completely separate incident, having been squeezed out by Inem Ahmed. He had to retire his car. So a great race there from the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And with the late running of the race, for sure we're not going to be able to bring you the podium, where Juri Vips will stand on the top step as the race winner. Inem Ahmed P2 and Marcus Armstrong P3. So the cars making the way off the start-finish straight then and into their Parc Fermé area. The FIA Formula 3 European Championship. You've not got long to wait for race number 2. Race number 3, rather, second of today, which comes up a little bit later on this afternoon. Make sure you join us for that, please, because that will be something special. In the Drivers' Championship, then, this is the way it looks, with Inem Ahmed on 101 points, Marcus Armstrong on 83, then it's Daniel Ticktum, Ralph Aron, Guan Yu Zhu, Sasha Fenestras, Juri Vips, then on 52 points, P7. So there we have it. Make sure you join us for the third race, but the second race of today, which will be here at the Norris Ring Circuit a little bit later this afternoon. Thanks for watching Race 2.